because men with high visceral fat are significantly more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even low testosterone. So they may appear to not be overweight, but they are more likely to get these diseases as well as have symptoms. If you have that stubborn belly fat that won't budge and you're wondering, is this just cosmetic or is something more serious going on? This video is for you. Today, I'm going to break down exactly what visceral fat is, how it affects your hormones and your blood sugar, and the best tools to track it, plus 3 proven strategies to get rid of it long term. I'm Dr. Adam. I help men over 40 reverse type 2 diabetes, optimize their testosterone, and build a body they're proud of without wasting time on all the generic advice out there. And visceral fat isn't just about how your pants fits. It's directly tied to type 2 diabetes, low testosterone, and even rising insulin and estrogen levels in men. So let's clear the confusion and get you some results. As for the basics, there are 2 types of fat around your belly: subcutaneous fat, which is just under the skin, and then visceral fat, which is deeper. It wraps around your organs. It's just this nasty stuff. Subcutaneous fat is actually biological, so we evolved to store energy this way, for times of scarcity, if we're fasting. So it's part of our survival system. But visceral fat is different. That's not part of the original blueprint. That's a flaw in the modern system because it's harmful. It raises insulin resistance. It increases estrogen and lowers testosterone in men. And here's the kicker. You can also be skinny fat. So you look lean in clothes. Maybe you're even the same weight you were 10 years ago, but you carry hidden visceral fat that's sabotaging your health, which is wild to think about, right? So this fat is hidden. So you think you can get away with things like drinking however many beers you want, or eating fast food, or eating candy, so like eating like a kid, but that's risky. Here's why. That's because men with high visceral fat are significantly more likely to develop type 2 diabetes, heart disease, and even low testosterone. So they may appear to not be overweight, but they are more likely to get these diseases as well as have symptoms like low energy or erectile dysfunction, which is why not everybody who has diabetes is overweight. Okay, so how do you know if you have a visceral fat problem? Well, it's safe to say that the scale doesn't tell the full story, and neither does your BMI, which is also unhelpful since it doesn't take into account your muscle mass. And here's a reality check. Your pant size is not your waist size. So most brands underestimate that anyway. So if your jeans say size 36, for example, your true waist might be a 38. So here are 3 better methods to assess your visceral fat levels. Number 1 is a DEXA scan. This is the gold standard. It shows precise body composition, including fat distribution, and which includes visceral fat. It also includes muscle mass and bone density. So it's incredibly useful. There's a ton of data there. And there are also imaging centers, popping up all over the US that offer this scan out of pocket. So you don't even need a referral to get it. So if you want clarity and specifics, get a DEXA scan. The second way to assess visceral fat is with a waist to height ratio, which is the most affordable option since all you need is a sewing measuring tape. So measure your waist at the belly button at the end of an exhale. So no cheating the second in. And then divide that number by your height in inches. And the goal is to keep that under 0.5. That ratio should be 0.5. Number 3 way to assess visceral fat is with a bioimpedance scale, like an in-body scan. And these give a rough estimate, but can be thrown off by things like hydration and meal timing, but they still offer a decent assessment and a way to track progress as well. Okay, now let's break down why visceral fat is so harmful, because it doesn't just sit there. It acts like a hormone factory, converting testosterone into estrogen through a process called aromatization. And the more visceral fat you carry, the more estrogen you produce, which means lower and lower testosterone levels. And this becomes a vicious cycle for guys because it means more belly fat, which then means less muscle, which means lower metabolism and ultimately more belly fat. And to top it off, if you're also struggling with type 2 diabetes, visceral fat makes your insulin resistance worse, which is why reversing belly fat helps reverse diabetes faster than losing weight elsewhere. And you're probably wondering at this point, well, can you spot target visceral fat loss, like just lose fat from your belly specifically? Unfortunately, the answer is no, not directly. But the good news is that visceral fat is the first fat your body tends to burn when you're in a metabolic deficit. And that means when your hormones, your habits, your lifestyle is dialed in, that visceral fat tends to drop fast. Okay, now let me give you the top 3 science-backed strategies I use with my clients to burn visceral fat. First one is diet related. So the goal is to prioritize protein while lowering carbohydrate intake, especially ultra-processed carbs. High protein meals help preserve muscle and stimulate fat burning. They also lead to less overall calorie intake, and lowering processed carbs in combination with that will reduce insulin spikes, which directly impacts reduce visceral fat accumulation. So this combo has been shown to shrink visceral fat more than just, say cutting calories alone. In clinical trials, high protein diets consistently reduce visceral fat even without aggressive calorie cutting. Number two, second strategy is with movement, and that means strength training and daily walking. So when it comes to exercise, the goal should really be to gain muscle, not just burn fat, because building muscle will ultimately do that. It burns fat, even it burns glucose while you're sleeping. So you don't need these like hour-long workouts. You just need 3 full body resistance sessions per week. The addition here is 30 minutes of daily walking. So that combination can significantly drop visceral fat. Walking helps burn fat at low intensity, which is an added bonus of not raising your cortisol or your appetite compared to other types of cardio. So think about it like this: muscle is your metabolic engine. More muscle equals more fat burned at rest, especially visceral fat. Third tool is to optimize sleep and manage stress, because poor sleep and chronic stress increases cortisol, which causes fat storage around your organs. So aim for 7 to 8 hours of deep, consistent sleep per night, and then build in some recovery time in the day. And that's mindfulness. So even 5 minutes of deep breathing will be helpful. Research suggests that men with high cortisol and low sleep have about 2 times more visceral fat than other guys. So even when weight is the same. And I see this most often with shift workers, which is an unintended consequence of the job. But it explains how just being off from your normal circadian rhythm can throw off your body composition. So this needs to be dealt with for those guys especially. All right, to summarize, when it comes to fat, it's not about losing weight, it's about losing the right kind of weight. So focusing on fat loss, especially visceral fat, is what transforms your health. That's why I have all my clients track their waist measurement once a week and their weight daily, and body composition, so muscle mass percentage. It also helps to track your symptoms too, so things like energy, libido, strength, morning erections, so you're not just relying on the single number on the scale. And here's what I've noticed: you can lose inches off your waist without losing pounds if you're building muscle. So think about that. It's a win-win. So your weight may stay the same, but you're losing fat and you're gaining muscle. So that's the goal. All right, there you have it. Visceral fat is the worst fat. It affects your testosterone and your blood sugar and your appearance. And the best way to get rid of it is to track and eliminate it safely and efficiently. If you found this helpful, subscribe for more videos on men's health.